What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous Georgian Goes reporting for duty. We got one of the best in the business right here. This is Coach John Wood from the Syndicate Gym in Las Vegas. This guy has cornered world champions and a lot of top dogs and gals over the years. Coach, let me ask you a question, man. The UFC is like basically the NFL, and these title fights, these big numbered events, they're going to be called numbered events next year, but they're pay-per-views.
Sure.
These are like the Super Bowl. And when I watch Super Bowl coaches, they're like a bundle of nerves, especially on media days. You seem to embrace it and you seem to stay calm. How do you keep it composed like that, with so many fights that can change so many lives?
Yeah, that's one of, I would say, my few good qualities. I've always I realized early on in high pressure situations, even when I was a kid, nerves, like when crazy stuff would happen, I don't get nervous. I never would get nervous. I don't get nervous speaking in front of crowds. I don't get nervous in speaking in front of big moments and situations, and it just always it's one of those weird things where these kind of things, especially when it comes to the fight night, it like actually calms me down. It's even I've always been able to lock in and stay focused, and it's just weird. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't ever let the moment get bigger than it needs to be. And the same thing that I've always told my guys is like, sometimes and a lot of times I had this conversation today with a few of my fighters. We create the moment to be so much bigger than it really is. And even if it's big moment, we make it worse in our heads. And that's just something I don't allow myself. And I try not to allow my guys to do, to where we lock in and stay focused, and for me, these guys hire me to have that situation, to have that calmness, to have that presence. They don't need me going out there being nervous, and especially media, any of the stuff. It's part of the job. And once you realize that this is this is a big part of it, and these things, the nerves are there. It's just really how you deal with them, where you tuck them away, and come fight night, I love it, man. It's an awesome feeling. It's an awesome situation. Like, these are the things as a coach that you dream about being, the situations you dream about. So it'd be crazy for me to not just want to embrace it and be there and enjoy the moment, and obviously I'm not the one that has to get into the cage. So that's the real terrifying part. But again, it's how you deal with it, man. I love this stuff, and I'm built for, I can't imagine doing anything other than what I'm doing in this life. Like, I honestly couldn't think about anything else. Like, this is what I'm suited for. So it's just something that I've always really, really enjoyed.
Is every guy and gal the same? And that includes even your wife, who's a former fighter. So I mean, you literally had, like those nerves, somebody who you've taken as an amateur type nerves, a veteran coming over looking to rebuild type of nerves. So does everyone kind of get the same speech, either walking out of the locker room or in that final moment in the prep point, or is everyone different?
Everyone is different in the sense of what they need to hear and how they handle things. Everybody handles the pressure differently. I would say this: there's a handful, a very few handful over the years and years I've been doing this, that are real, truly not nervous and are truly excited to get in there, and or at least make me believe that, oh man, I live for this. I want to die out there. Everybody says that bullshit. And the deal is, I tell my guys, you can say whatever you want, but make sure you have that honest conversation with yourself. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. That is part of the game. It's when you lie to yourself in any facet of life. If you're, if I lie to myself as a coach, I'm not a good coach. I'm going to get figured out. People are going to figure that out. I'm not going to have a room that I have here. As a fighter, if you're lying to yourself for why you're fighting, or you're just this super tough badass, and you tend to go out there and not perform, or you get beat all the time, you're lying to yourself. So just be honest with the situation and realize that everybody feels the same. Everybody's nervous. Everybody feels like shit. It's really how you choose to deal with it. You're on the roller coaster. The ride has started. You wanted to, you got in line, you waited. You got two choices. You throw your hands up and you enjoy the ride, or you
And
sit there and shit and piss yourself and puke all over yourself and embarrass yourself in front of your family and friends and your girlfriend or whatever. I choose the, I prefer the first one, but everybody's different, and how you motivate people or recenter people, that part is different. But the same speech in general is just be honest with yourself. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. This shit is a very scary thing. I told my guys today, you literally picked the most scary sport, the scariest thing you could do as a professional. You're getting into a cage with another person that wants to beat the shit out of you in front of thousands of millions of people potentially.
yeah,
It's just scary. Just be honest with it and learn how to, once you're honest with the fact of why you're doing this and what it makes you feel, then you can learn to deal with it. But if you have that false sense, that false bravado, I'm such a bad motherfucker, I'm gonna kill everybody, then you usually go out there and fight like shit, and people are like, what? And then even that, it's just worse on you, so how, like I said, everybody's a little bit different on how they deal with it, but you kind of give the speech to everybody, the same speech in different ways, in different fashions.
man, that struck a chord with me because if I was a fighter, I think I would want my coach's final words to say, he can say whatever he wants as long as he closes. And don't forget, he's trying to kill you. So
Yeah.
you kill him first. And that might be that last reminder of like, okay, that man, that touch of gloves and the
Yeah.
laughing and the hugging, man, I don't think I could do that. I could do it. I'll have a
Stop with
beer
that
with you
shit. Like
afterwards,
even yeah, like
but
we're getting out there to do something nasty, man. We're getting
I
out there to
know.
literally beat the shit out of each other. You can be friends after, and you don't even like I tell people all the time, you don't have to be an asshole leading up to it. And you don't got to be a dick. We don't be whatever, but just know that this person has a job to do, and their job to do is to stop you from doing everything you want to do and make you look terrible doing it and beat you up in front of all your friends and your family. So let's try to not let that happen. And so many fighters, I've seen so many fighters over the years, they like a lot of times when people lose, it's not because the other guy was so good. It's just we've beat ourselves up, we freeze up, we allow things to happen, and it's just crazy. But like again, this is a crazy ass thing you chose to do.
Yeah.
So
All right. One more from me, and then I'll turn it over to Goes, and then I might have one more to close. But um, is okay. You're a huge NFL fan. So is
yes,
Goes. So am I, and that's why I use some of these analogies. But um, is there such thing as you do have a game plan, right? But
yes.
is there such thing as a trick play to start the fight? Like something that that camp did not prepare for, and something that might just make the other fighter like react in a way that it throws them off and it takes them 30 seconds or a minute to adjust to.
Absolutely. I believe that the whole kind of game plan should be a trick play. Like I always there's a good chance that, especially at this level, when you're dealing with fighters and coaches at the highest levels, which we are, they can watch tape. They can see what you're going to do. They know what your style is. They know, like, I've watched all the tape on Yuri, all the tape on, Sandhagen. We know what's out there. The trick is not letting the guy know when and where and what and how you're trying to do what you're trying to do. So the whole thing is like reworking the game plan. All of it's kind of a trick play, like small, different things, and those are the things that that naked eye doesn't see usually, or the small little tricky things. Like if I went back and rewatched all the fights with you guys and showed you like Merab, hey, this is what we were doing here, you'd be like, oh my god, okay, here's we're sneaking in these little things, doing these little things. Yeah, so the answer is a lot of it is that way. A lot of it is just meat and potatoes stuff, but it's really how you get the meat and potato stuff done. It's how you make that happen. That is the trick in itself. And at this level, it's pretty crazy. Like I said, you're dealing with good fighters, you're dealing with good coaches, you're dealing with everybody. It's hard to make it happen, but that's where that's what defines good fighters to great fighters to champions, as people that are able to do that and able to follow the game plan, and not even only the game plan. When I game plan, my game plan is so loose, there's 5, 6, 7 different audibles that we can call during that game plan, and usually that's up to the fighter, and we know how to shift off and go to the next play. We know how to shift off from, we're going to go from a run play to a pass play, easy, and that's where I do a lot of work with the guys to make them thinking fighters. I don't want a robot out there that I have to call out everything. I'm just there to fill in the gaps, and they're calling the plays. I got a quarterback in there that's playing. He's calling the plays. I might substitute some things here and there, or tell him in between, hey, I think this, let's go this way or that way. But they're the ones that are ready to do that, and so yes, there is a lot of that in there.
One of my favorite ones was when BJ Penn was taking John Fitch down. I think it was in Australia, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" Everyone was expecting the reverse, and you could see the look on John Fitch's face, like, I'm supposed to be grinding you out." I think they wound up drawing, but that was one of my favorites. Anyway, all right, goes. What do you have for the coach?
Well, kind of along the same lines. There was an old boxing match years ago. It was Marco Antonio Barrera and Prince Nassim Hamed. And going into that fight, everybody kind of looked at Prince Nazim as the boxer. We all kind of knew what he was going to do, but Barrera was more, the Mexican bravado, and he ended up boxing him that fight, which nobody expected, and it really threw off Prince Nazim. What it reminded me of was when Khalil, uh, his last fight, the way he fought Jamal Hill. We
Yeah.
all had this other expectation of how he was going to fight. And so at the end of the night, some people were almost let down, but
Yeah.
I was like fired up because I was like, dude, you guys have no idea how beautiful what he just did was. He mixed his aggression and his patience. And I asked Khalil about this the other day too. And I kind of want to ask you, was that a strategy that was just kind of tailor made for that fight? Or is that something that we can expect out of him going forward? Because if it is something that we can expect going forward, holy crap, like this kind of changes everything. Even the way you look at a rematch with Pereira, there's so many,
Yeah.
it's like a new guy. So that's what I'm kind of curious. Is this a
So
new him or an adjustment just to that fight?
there really is no new. I don't try to do new him with anybody. I try to add into what got us to the dance, what made you successful. We're not going to shift off and do something. Khalil's a very, very violent man. That this is a great example. That fight, again, a lot of people, I think it's out there now, Khalil tore his knee 4 weeks before that fight, and complete tear in his meniscus. And so we weren't even able to spar for almost 5 weeks in that camp. So we had to adjust to do what we could do. We knew we'd be good for fight night. But that was the setup where that is what the play that needed to be called for that fight. We found a path to victory, and found that path to victory pretty quick, and was able to stay on that. And that's what the great thing that we do here, at Syndicate is you have to have options. If you're a one trick pony in this game, you're not going to go far. You're not going to be. I mean, there's some great guys that are great, really great at what they do, and they've done well with just doing that thing. But you will get figured out. Khalil, we're an option of, if we need to stand there and make it look pretty and slow things down, and beat a guy up, we can do that. If we need to be violent and go in and show an explosive, a very explosive, violent side to it, it's there. If he gets taken down, he's going to get back up. There's a lot of things going on, and again, going back to what you said earlier, as far as playing, trick plays and audibles, they're there all the time. Like we were working on these things last night, and it just comes to switching speed, switching timing, switching. And when we find that path to victory, we're going to stay on that path. And hopefully, you know, I do believe that Khalil, would have been a little more aggressive going for the finish after, some of those knockdowns, had we not had that injury. So, but like, again, you have to be smart. You have to play to what your body is capable of doing. If there's injuries, and almost everybody goes into fights injured, but that was a pretty serious one. So I was very happy, very pleased for him to follow that game plan and get it done the way he got it done. I loved it. I love when, and everybody expected a violent knockout from one of them. And, again, sometimes it's going to go that way at this level. Everybody's really, really good. And it's hard to finish fights, and it's hard to finish fights even more when you're fit, when you're injured. But I want my guys to be able to make that switch when they need to make that switch. Go, oh, I can't do it this way, but I can do it this way. Oh, he stopped me there. I can go over here, and that's the same thing. You see all the shit, and I'm sure you're kind of alluding to the fact of what's going on between, Cory. Yeah, I just saw something about that Cory's gonna to take down Merab, and Merab's talking about standing up and knocking out Cory, and all those things are greatly possible. And I just, we're prepared for all of it. I truly do think that Cory will come out and shoot on us. I can almost guarantee it. And if that doesn't happen, then so be it. We're ready for the next. But like we're ready for anything that goes on in that cage, and you have to be. Doesn't matter. It's just that's the game these days.
Well, that kind of bled into what I was going to ask you next, and that's in that. So with Khalil Roundtree, the from the outside looking in, one of the things that I see is Yuri's just so unorthodox, right? And he can be very wild, but in a way, it's sort of infectious. When we were kids and we'd play basketball, if somebody did something crazy, you couldn't wait till you got the ball so you could show him up, right? Is
Oh
it
yeah.
difficult to kind of be in the corner and make sure that that doesn't happen, that we stick to a game plan, all that stuff? That's got to be one of the games that you have to play as a coach, right?
Yeah, and again, I always tell my guys, there's moments you're going to get caught up in chaos. It would be stupid or foolish of me to think that's like saying a fighter's never going to make a mistake. That he's not going to throw a punch the wrong way. He's not going to do this or do that or shoot a shitty takedown. You have to be prepared. What we train a lot here is training for those mistakes. I don't train people to be perfect. That's just that's an impossible thing. So we train for the reality that hey, this is going to go wrong. This might happen. You might do this. It's what we do after those mistakes. It's what we do when that moment happens of do we keep chasing that mistake down the rabbit hole and then get knocked out or taken down. It's making the mistakes into techniques and training so that no one around knows this happens. Now what you're talking about is you're going to have two guys that are, I guarantee you there is going to be a moment or 10 moments in the fight, probably even in the first round, that are going to be, oh shit, whoa, like this kind of fight has it written all over. There's going to be chaotic moments. There's going to be those moments. Yuri is the type of guy that's going to draw out that chaos. But that also might be a thing that is very good for us and very good for the game plan. There's a moment if maybe Yuri has changed his entire style and he sits back and he goes, I'm going to be a technical fighter because I know this guy can knock me out. And I'm not going to do it. I'm sitting here. Beautiful. We're ready for that too. But I do believe, and I tell my guys all the time, the tiger's going to get out of the cage. It's going to happen. The tiger's going to get out of the cage, but let's take the tiger and put him back in the cage for a little bit sometimes until he needs to come out again. There are fact and matters where Khalil has won a lot of fights from creating that chaos also, and if you stand there and throw with that man, there's a good chance if he touches you, you are going to see the lights. And Yuri is very much the same way. But I always believe that I've always got the live dog here when it comes to the explosion, the power, the speed. You have to be careful. You can't get caught up in that moment after moment after moment after moment because then that becomes that person's fight. But also too, on the flip side of that, I would take my chances if they both stood there and just threw their hands as hard as they could, put their chins down, that Khalil would get there and knock him out also. So um, the answer to the question, there is going to be some chaos. I guarantee it. It would be foolish to think in a fight like that there's not going to be chaos. There will be. But I believe that Khalil will control that chaos. And sometimes we want the chaos. Sometimes if you watch people's fights and you see, oh God, okay, that is when they're the most dangerous when they're chaotic, but they're also the most open and vulnerable. So there's moments that you want that.
Coach, I did want to ask you a little bit about Zhang Weili and this big fight that she's taken on. We talk about Merab earlier and kind of the legacy that he's starting to build in his division. She's moving up, and I've always been curious on the coach's side. How do you determine what that change in the body is going to be like? Is she going to be faster? We've all talked about how she's been able to use overpower a lot of people, but now maybe some of that might become a little bit more even. Like, how do you determine what a fighter's gonna look like and how you can push them when they make that jump?
Yeah, when you start to go up in a weight class, your body does react different. You are carrying a different weight, you're carrying different, structure. You will feel different. So the best thing you can do when anybody moves up is to make sure that you've tried and tested that in the gym as much as possible and that you make the smart decision saying, okay, yeah, I think, there's a point in time where everybody gets sick of cutting weight. There's a point in time where the older you get, the longer you do this, the shit sucks. It's just terrible, you know. And so you want to make sure it's tried and true and tested as much as you can possibly in the gym and that you're performing. And that's why I tell my guys too, man, like don't be walking around 30, 40 pounds, 50 pounds over your weight, because that's what your body's not used to. And when you get in and to perform and when you have to cut that weight and do all those things, it's going to feel different. You know, be close enough that we can kind of keep the same, you know, technical aspects to our game, and our body doesn't freak out, you know, but you really, I mean, honestly, you never know. Having that first live go in a fight, going up a weight class or going down a weight class is always the tried, true, tested, you know, because it's a different type of adrenaline, a different type of cardio and a push. You'll never be able, no matter how hard we simulate what we can do in the gym, you'll never have that fight feeling that you have in there. Your body just, it's fight or flight, and it's hard to turn that completely on inside the gym. We do the best that we can, but you're hoping that, like I said, you've had enough time to go up. Weili is a little ball of muscle, so she walks around a lot heavier than you would think. You know, I mean, she is. She's just a little
She's
tank, dude.
jacked.
Like she is a freaking tank. You know, and so I don't think it's going to be a hard switch for her. I really don't. And you know, Valentina isn't one of the, you know, bigger flyweights. She's not a giant. You know, she's not small by any means, but she's not one of the, you know, giant flyweights out there. So I think that we're going to, you know, have a fairly good matchup. I think it's going to be a, you know, a pretty even when it comes to the speed and power and size. And I just don't see, you know, Weili is one of the most explosive athletic people I've ever been around, pound for pound. I mean, pound for pound, that woman is, she's nasty, very nasty, nastier than most guys that I think even in the sport.
Last thing for me before I turn it back to George. We're in late September, which is means we're starting to get on award season, right? What's happened this year? Your gym, yourself, is kind of scattered all over award talk. What does it feel like, to get the praise not just from media, fans, but people amongst your industry that have nominated you guys for these types of awards?
Man, it's pretty freaking awesome. I ain't gonna lie. You know, it's not what you do it for, and I've always stressed and said this from day one, for the last 22 years, that if anybody knows my name or knows the gym's name, it's because we've done our job. I've done my job as a coach. These guys have done their jobs as fighters. But to have, like, to be nominated, you know, for the actual awards with Coach of the Year, Gym of the Year, Fight of the Year, Fighter of the Year, I think we've covered all the bases. Like that's, it's amazing. It's pretty awesome. It's a testament to the things that we have going on here. It is really cool though. Like I wouldn't, you know, just to be nominated as an honor. If we win, great. If it doesn't, if we don't win, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change that what we're going to do. You know, I don't do what I do to win awards, but it is. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't super cool. I'd be lying if it wasn't like an honor, you know, and like it is nice to have that kind of recognition to, like, holy shit, not even just for us, for me, but this for the team to go, man, yeah, like we're doing it. These guys are doing it because it's all about them. It's all about the fighters. It's all about the work that they're putting in and the culture and the mindset that we have going on at Syndicate. It is something special. And I really do think that we're just kind of on the cusp. Like we're, you know, every day I try to figure out a better way to be a better team, a better coach. We're bringing in new coaches. We've got some really good new hire coaches coming on board and things that are gonna really make a difference. We expanded. We bought the building we're in, and we're gonna, you know, eventually expand to take over the whole thing. And there's just a lot of good stuff, a lot of positive stuff right now, and it's all just coming from literally everybody just believing in everybody. And so it's an awesome, you know, thing to just see it all come to fruition and everybody kind of get the credit that is deserved, you know. So it really is cool.
You're buying the whole
Can,
block, man.
can
Pretty
you
soon, Crack
repeat
Dig is
that?
going to be next to you guys.
Can you repeat that? I was having trouble hearing. I got the ring.
Yeah, that's cool. I was wondering, you get a cool award? I want one of those. That'd be cool.
Hey, Coach, are you okay on time?
Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
good.
Okay, so
I'm
let me just
good.
ask you these quick ones.
I'm good.
Alberg just got a win over Reyes. Ulberg wants to fly in. I don't know if he's going to be the backup or not. Doesn't matter, but he is going to fly in. He feels like he's next. And I have a feeling I know what you're going to tell me. Hey, we're focused on the win. I get that, right? But at the same time, fighting another man at 205, going through the camp, all that is not easy. So it could be that with an explosive win this weekend, you now take it back from take the momentum away from
Yep.
Ulberg. Does that even come into play? Or is it like I think where, hey man, we just worry about the win and that other stuff, it just happens.
Yeah, I mean, right now, obviously, 100% we're focused on Yuri Prohaska, and that is it. There hasn't even been talk or even touch of like even touching on that subject of what would be there. I believe that obviously, the hype and level of this fight and being on the same card, being, you know, uh, pretty much a co-main type of thing, like all eyes. There's so many people that I've read and seen that's the fight everybody's signing up for to watch that level in the same night as the other thing. I think it lines up very good for us to be the next contender. We just have to go out there and perform. We have to go out there and perform, and obviously, the UFC knows what they're doing better than anybody. They are the ones that they know how to run the business. That rankings don't matter. That these things don't matter. It's going to be if whoever comes out in this fight, which will be Khalil, but whoever comes out in this fight and in fashion, especially, I just don't see this fight going 3 rounds. I really don't, and I think that the hype and the magnitude of the card and everything that this is on really does push us up to the next contender. And then I think Oberg is definitely sitting there for after that. But you just never know, and you just can't bank on any of those things. You can't really get too deep in the weeds and oh, I'm next, because you're gonna get disappointed at some point in time. It happens all the time. So you just don't know how things sit. We just have to go out there and put on a stunning performance, and I think that puts us in the best situation to be next.
Who do you think wins the title fight, and who do you want to win the title fight, or is it the same man?
Which title fight are we talking about? I said,
The wow, you know the answer to the bantamweight,
I think you
the
know
light
the answer to
heavyweight.
one of the. No, I listen. I'm a big Pereira fan. I think the dude is special. The run he went on is special. What he did to kind of he became a superstar when we had a little bit of a lack of superstars, and he became that guy and stepped up and fought. Um, I would love to see him win it so that we could get another crack at that. And and
Mm,
and, and personally, also honestly, fight style, man. Like I'm a fan of his fight style. Like I'm a fan of a man who goes out there and literally will try to kill you and knock you into the next universe. And so why wouldn't you be a fan of that? And I always like somebody going back there and getting their revenge if they can, but also for us, that's what we want. We want to be able to
right.
get our revenge on that. And I'd love to see Khalil get in there and have another crack at that. And but yeah, I'm a big Pereira fan, and so honestly, I would like to see that happen again for multiple reasons, and one of the reasons being for us to get back at it, but also, like I said, just from a fan point, like I'm a big fan of those guys, and I think that they're he's an amazing fighter, so and I think when you have that kind of power, if he goes out there and fights the way he's capable of fighting and just lets it go, there's a good chance that he gets that title back.
Great answer. I love it. All right, here's the last one, and we might as well round out the half hour here.
All good.
Some fighters fight for their legacy. Obviously, Merab and Dominic Cruz. People are arguing all week who's the greatest now. Could Merab pass him? Maybe some even feel like you passed him already. That's a different subject. But talk about the importance of this fight, man. You got to ride on a bus in a parade where people were like looking at Merab Dvalishvili like he was the greatest Georgian ever. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I love that. It's probably
Yeah.
one of my favorite videos of the year, and I'm glad you got to enjoy that. You were signing hats as quick as possible, and people knew who you were because obviously you're the head coach. But can you talk about how important this is for that country now that you've seen it up close and been there? I mean, it means a lot to a lot of these kids.
Yeah, it really does. It's something special. He's got something special behind him in that country. Georgia, one beautiful country, beautiful people. I was really like, I've been all over the world at this point in time, and that's definitely one of my favorite places I've ever been to. everybody was so nice and welcoming and warm. The food was great, and it was awesome. And to see how they embraced and see how mad, crazy in love with that dude that they are is just awesome. And he deserves it, dude. He is a and Rob is just one hell of a guy inside and outside the cage. He's a great champion. He's even a better person. And so when you can get a country, an entire country behind you like that, and to feel that love, it's special, man. And so I think his legacy in Georgia is cemented no matter what. I believe that we're looking at bigger legacies now as in past this fight. I think it just starts to get crazy. But again, we're focused on Cory Sandhagen, and it doesn't matter. Nothing matters if we don't get past him, if we don't do our job and handle business this Saturday, and that's what we're gonna do. And so, like, there's not a lot of legacy talk or anything like that. In fact, to be honest, Marab really doesn't care. The man just like I said earlier, there's very few people I say, I can count on one hand that just love to fight and love and are excited to do it. And he is one of them, man. That guy, like, I've never seen after the weight cut, I've never seen somebody just turn it on so much and just like all the pressure. You would think he just fought. All the pressure falls off him after the weight cut, and he is just focused on going out there and doing the job. So, he carries the weight of Georgia. Like I said, he carries it in his heart. That's his country. He definitely fights for his country, fights for his people. He's a proud Georgian, and so I think that motivates him a lot. Motivates him probably the most. And I think, like I said, I think he's completely secured his legacy and legend as one of the greatest Georgian athletes to ever live.
No doubt. There you have it, Junkie Nation. You want the best. We always bring you the best guests here on the show. That's a championship caliber coach right there, Coach John Wood, who's going to be guiding Merab Dvalishvili and Khalil Roundtree this weekend at UFC 320. Coach, thank you for the time. We really, really appreciate it. Congrats on all your success.
Hey, thank you guys, man. Come on anytime. I really enjoy it. Thank you.